In this video on the quadratic formula, we're going to focus in on the first objective, which is that I can follow the steps to derive the quadratic formula. Now, I know most of you should know the quadratic formula. In fact, some of you may even know a song and have it memorized that way. And you should still have this memorized. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But the question is, where does this quadratic formula come from? And so what we're going to be doing here is called deriving the quadratic formula. Deriving the quadratic formula, and you don't have to write this down. You just need to pay attention and follow the steps. So in our first step, probably the scariest looking one, we go from our original equation, which is just any trinomial, to this one here. And we're doing basically what we've been doing in this unit, which is completing the square. Now when we complete the square, the first thing we do is we factor out a. So here's that a. We factored it out of x squared. So a is out front and we have just x squared there. When we factor it out of bx, we divide b by a. And this c, of course, ended up way on the end. And we wanted to create a trinomial square. And so we had to add half of b over a. And then if we add it, then we also had to subtract it. And since it was being multiplied by a, we had to subtract a times it. So when we take half of b over a, we get b over 2a. And that's what we're adding here. We add b over 2a squared there, and we, over here, subtract b over 2a squared times that same a. All right, so now in our next step, what we're really doing is we're just factoring our trinomial square. So factoring the trinomial square. What is our trinomial square? It's this right here. So this is the thing that we set up so that we could factor it easily. And that becomes this part right here. So our a right here is as it was. This factors into x plus b over 2a squared. And then this right here, the only thing that changed was the top. I squared b squared. I also squared 2a, 4a squared, because it's going to come in handy later. All right, in this next step, the first part did not change at all. But what I really did here is get a common denominator for these two, because I am going to want to get them together. So I found a common denominator is the biggest thing I did in order to be able to add those together. So let's take a look at what we did. First, in this first one, we said, you know what, this a cancels with that a. And so we get b squared minus 4a. And then in the second one, this c, in order to add it on, I'm going to need it to be over 4a, just like this one. So I multiplied the bottom by 4a, and I also multiplied the top by 4a. And now I have something that I can add together. And in the next step, not only do I add them together, but I actually subtract them, or actually add them from both sides, so it's now on the other side. You'll notice that when it goes to the other side, what was a negative b squared over 4a is now a positive b squared over 4a, and was a positive 4ac over 4a is now a negative 4ac all over 4a. So what we really did here is we subtracted, actually we added because it changed sign, so let's change that. We added, here we go, we added b squared minus 4ac all over 4a to both sides. When we added it to the left side, it canceled, and we added it to the right side. No longer do we just have 0, we have this fraction. And you're starting to see the makings of the quadratic formula here. All right. Moving along, we have this next step here, and you'll notice the a that was here is no longer. And down here, instead of just 4a, we have 4a squared because we divided both sides by a. Now we're ready to take the square root. So that's our next step. Square root both sides. When we take the square root of the left, the squared right here disappears. When we take the square root on the other side, we realize we'll have two answers. So we have plus or minus. we simply put the square root symbol over b squared minus 4ac. The square root of 4a squared is 2a. All right, and then we just have one last step, and that is to move negative b over 2a to the other side. And so what we're really doing here is we subtract b over 2a from both sides. When we subtract it on the left, it cancels out. When we subtract it on the right, it appears there as negative b over 2a. Now this is the form of the formula we're going to use. A lot of you memorized it as a single fraction, but we're actually going to use it in the two parts, because in the two parts we're able to see how it relates to a parabola. So I just want us to take a look at this. And right here, I want you to see where we normally would have y, we have a 0, which means what we're finding here is our x-intercepts. So here the solutions are the x-intercepts, because the x-intercepts are when this thing equals 0. So when we solve this, we're finding this point and this point. Also, we know from what we've done before that this negative b over 2a, that is the x-coordinate of the vertex. So our x-coordinate right here is negative b over 2a. And then we have to add or subtract a certain amount to get the left one and add to get the right one. So over here, the number that we're adding to get over to that right x-intercept is the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And the number we subtract to get this other one is the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So what I want you to see is that negative b over 2a is the middle of the solutions, or it's halfway between the solutions. Let's even write it that way. So negative b over 2a is halfway between the solutions. And this part is the distance from the middle to each x-intercept. So the distance from, or we could even say the line of symmetry. So the distance from the line of symmetry to each x-intercept. All right, and now you should have a better understanding of where the quadratic formula comes from.